What is up, guys, and welcome back to Thou Shalt Listen. I'm Tyler.
I'm Hunter. What's up?
And today we got a kind of a sequel to a
Mhm.
previous one that we did. A few weeks ago, we did the worst games of the decade. Today, we're going to do the best games of the decade. And we are talking about from 2010 to now. And this is going to be the top 20 best games of the decades. There were a lot of games on offer from 2010 to now. A lot of new franchises. We've seen a lot of the industry leaders come and go. We've seen some of the biggest companies that we used to see when we were younger go away. And a lot of big new companies come in. Now, we're pulling this list from the Hollywood Reporter. These games have been rated by the Hollywood Reporter's game critics, columnists, and staff writers that chose their picks for the most influential and memorable titles released from the past decade. A number of these games are still major games in today's industry. But there's also a number of games that are major games in this industry that are not in this list, like Minecraft and League of Legends. These titles were omitted because they launched last decade, before 2010.
Yeah.
These are strictly games that were released from 2010 to now. They're not ranked on this list. They're represented in the chronological order of their release. They were chosen for their impact on the industry and the lasting impressions they made upon the gaming community. Now, this was all Patrick Shanley, the gaming writer and editor at The Hollywood Reporter. And we're going to jump straight into it with the first of the 20 games, Mass Effect 2. So, Mass Effect, the series, peaked with its second entry in 2010. Then it went off the rail with the trilogy's final 2 years later. But we don't talk about Mass Effect 3 or Andromeda.
Mass Effect 3 was fine. Andromeda's when you went off the rail.
We don't talk about either of those.
We don't talk about Andromeda. 3 is fine.
The first game was admirable. It did a lot of world building and introduced players to a lot of new characters. The sequel made you realize these individuals' hopes, dreams, and feelings. The game's seemingly endless array of dialogue and permutations for how one simple conversation could affect the narrative was influential in many ways. The system's not really been quite perfected since. Even the game's lukewarm follow-up, Mass Effect Andromeda. It also featured a variety of endings. And all of these endings would fit the type of Shepard, the main character, that you groomed from the beginning of the game. Because you would make your character with the choices you made.
Yeah.
The puzzle pieces fit together, and it made this one of BioWare's best games. A feat that they have not yet been able to match and likely never will again. The last great moment in Mass Effect history, because while the third game did have a lot of good stuff in it, Mass Effect 2 is what took the franchise and made it feel more like an experience than a new game series.
Yeah.
Most of these words were from Brittany Vincent of Hollywood Reporter. I'm going ahead and giving credit today, guys, on the people who wrote a lot of this stuff, because a lot of this is written by people. We're just using this as an opportunity to put their list out there and give you an idea of the best games of the last decade.
Yeah. And we'll let you know if we agree or disagree with.
And I do agree. I think
any
Mass
of
Effect
these.
2 definitely should be on there. The next one I also think deserves to be on this list, and that would be Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. This is the fifth installment of this game franchise. Skyrim felt just the opposite for many newcomers from what you would normally feel in a fifth installment. Normally, a newcomer, if they're playing the fifth installment of a game franchise, it's going to feel daunting. It's going to feel overwhelming because you don't know what's happened. With Skyrim, it's the opposite because the game is designed around you making your character and building them from the beginning. The character models of the NPCs did leave something to be desired.
Yes, they did.
The detail in the expansive settings, locations, armor, and weapons displayed the kind of ambitious detail that allowed other games that swallowed other games of its kind. The open world nature of the game and seemingly infinite side quests often eclipse the main narrative for some people playing, and yet that factor worked to the game's advantage. Skyrim truly invited players to create their own narrative for their characters and make their in-game choices both in terms of characters and quests that added to the replay value of an eternal game that never plays the same way twice. This was Richard Newby from Hollywood Reporter. And I do agree. I've played Skyrim multiple times, and it always feels different because you can make those choices. You can change your character, you can change how they act, how they perform in the game, what they do, and it changes the story.
Mm-hmm. I didn't like it personally just because it's what I call too nerdy for me.
It's hack and slash.
Well, no, it's not even
Sword
that.
fighting.
It's not that part of it. When you start bringing in dragons and magic, you get too nerdy for me.
It's still a fun game, though. Next, guys, and we're going to try to move this a little bit faster because we are about 25 minutes till we're out of time, and we're only, I think, on the 4th game.
Yeah.
Next, we have Dark Souls. I agree that this deserves to be on this list because of the challenge that it gives you. It's the ultimate challenge in modern video games. It's brutal world serving as a true test of a player's mettle. It's not one of those games that sugarcoats how you perform. If you do badly, it still kind of helps you along. This game is designed to make you push to beat this game. It has a very intricate story woven into the experience. Pieces of lore scattered throughout, but the challenge is easily the most appealing part of this game. Ever since Dark Souls launched in 2011, difficulty in games has been described in 4 ways: easy, normal, hard, and Dark Souls. No game has become so intertwined with gaming difficulty, and with good reason. This hellish title will test every one of a player's faculties throughout the adventure. That was Jason Finelli. This game was designed around the fact that if you died, you would reset at the previous campfire where you saved.
Yeah.
What they didn't tell you is you could die in 1 or 2 hits. Some of these creatures could destroy you. It's dark. It's gritty. You don't see them until you're right on them. This game is what perfected the barrel roll to escape in combat. And I remember playing this, okay? I found a campfire. I saved. 2.5 hours later, I was within feet of the next campfire. I was moving for it, and I got cocky and was like, I'm going to run for it and save. And I was killed. 2.5 hours of work, gone. The game deserves to be on this list just for how it designed its difficulty.
That's why the majority of people have never beaten it or never even played it, because it'll make you break more controllers than the game is actually worth.
Yes, it will.
Oof.
Next, we have Batman Arkham City.
I played this one. I loved it.
The combat flow and emphasis on gadgets are what made Batman Arkham Asylum such a success 2 years earlier. Rocksteady's Arkham City creates a larger canvas for players to truly feel like the Dark Knight and explore Gotham City from rooftops to alleyways. Co-written by Paul Dini, celebrated comic writer and producer of Batman the Animated Series, Arkham City has an original story that employs the majority of Batman's rogue gallery in the main narrative and engaging side missions. Plus, familiar voice talents like Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill as Batman and the Joker, and designs that blend comic book costumes with the more grounded look of Christopher Nolan's films, serve to create a game that feels like a union of everything that fans loved about Batman and his world at the top of the decade.
And if you've never played it, highly
recommend. It is a fantastic game. Origins, I didn't care for as much.
Me and Tyler, that's another series at some point
we will have to play.
We will have to run through.
Next, and I would agree with this one, we have The Last of Us. From the opening moments, Naughty Dog's masterpiece breaks your heart.
Played the second one, never played the first one.
In the opening moments, and this is a spoiler, in the opening moments of the first one, you're introduced to Joel and his daughter.
Well, don't spoil it for people who may not have played it.
Well, that's part of what it's talking about here. You're introduced to Joel and his daughter. As the game progresses, within the first little bit of the prologue, his daughter is shot and killed. Part of the game's initial success was that it came during the height of a zombie media. But long after that hype died down, The Last of Us still has so much more to offer. It's a game that rewards smart gameplay, resourcefulness, yet still puts you in predicaments where you never feel quite prepared for what you're about to face. The horror does not simply involve, the infected humans you encounter, but from becoming emotionally attached to the game's protagonists, Joel and Ellie, beautifully given life by stars Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson. Last of Us isn't simply a game about survival or finding a cure for the end of the world. It's a game about the courage it takes to love something in the face of the fear of losing it, and ultimately fighting against that fear with everything in your disposal.
And this is off topic, but I've heard the show is doing...
The show is really good.
Wonderfully on HBO. I don't have a way to watch HBO at the moment. So
I was able to watch the
I,
first episode, thankfully, and
I've heard
I
it's
enjoyed it.
doing amazing, and people are wanting HBO to give Resident Evil the same treatment.
I would like for them to, because the last Resident Evil show was horrible.
Yeah.
Next, guys, we have Bioshock Infinite.
Yep, played this one too. Loved it. These games are crazy. I own all three of them. They're really fun though.
Oh yeah, no, the Bioshock games are fantastic. Infinite is actually the first one I played. I never really got into the first two. I did play them, but Infinite is what drew me into the series first.
Me and Josh started one a long time ago and never had an opportunity to finish it.
Yep. Then, of course, we have Grand Theft Auto 5.
GTA 5, everybody who has played it, even people who aren't old enough to play it, have played GTA.
Since
Insane.
GTA 5's release, the game has become the highest grossing media title of all time, generating more than $6 billion in lifetime revenue.
I mean, heck, it's been on like 6
This
different
game came
consoles.
out on the 360 and the PS3.
Yeah. And we've gone through the 1, the Series X, the PlayStation 4, 5. Jeez.
For the next few guys, I'm just going to kind of name them off and give a little bit of the information. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because we are starting to run up our time. We have Bayonetta 2. The original Bayonetta was groundbreaking. It was a heroine who wasn't afraid to be sexy while taking care of business. Their quote, not mine. The gaming industry didn't shy away entirely from an independent woman who also loves the suggestive poses and double entendres. So when Bayonetta 2 rolled out, they doubled down on this. It's an improvement on the original game in every conceivable way. It's frenetic, feminine, and challenging. And I've actually played the first one. I never played the second.
I've never played.
But they describe Bayonetta as Devil May Cry with a heavy coat of lipstick and robe.
Bayonetta is PlayStation exclusive, is it not?
I believe so. No, it's Nintendo.
Yeah, Nintendo.
You can get it on Nintendo.
Yeah.
And then we have Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Also one I agree with.
Another game me and Tyler will go through at some
This game
really
has hundreds of hours of content, wonderful voice acting, and a fantastic story. Then, of course, and I expected this to be on here because of the phase of it, Pokemon Go.
It was
Pokemon is already a big thing.
Yeah.
And to get a game where you could find Pokemon in the real world and kind of catch them and, do your thing with them.
I mean, heck.
Battling is a little bit lacking, but...
I mean, heck, this game got old people that have never even known what Pokemon was to go play
Pokemon. Yeah. Then we have Overwatch. Blizzard Entertainment announcing a new IP is always a big deal, but no one had a clue of the impact of Overwatch would have back in 2014 when it was announced at BlizzCon. It captured the hearts of millions of players when it debuted in 2016, and the game's grip continues to tighten with its recent release on the Switch. As the decade draws to a close, Overwatch has grown into a competitive gaming juggernaut. 2 full seasons of the Overwatch League showing that city-based esports leagues can not only work, they can thrive. With the next chapter of the franchise coming early in the next decade, fans can always look back at the 2010s as the time when we all joined the ranks of Overwatch.
Which, by the time of this recording, that game is out. And
free.
It's actually free to play.
Yep, they released it free to play, which is pretty cool. Next, and while I do not like this game, I can agree that it was one of the biggest games of the decade, Fortnite.
It's alright every now and again, but I cannot play it 24/7 like all these guys do, but...
Then next, we have The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. There's a reason why Breath of the Wild is the best-selling Zelda game of all time. It's no easy feat to reboot a franchise, especially one that's been so beloved and iconic for nearly 4 decades like Zelda. But with Breath of the Wild's stunning graphics, impressive attention to detail, and just the right amount of nostalgia, Breath of the Wild was a hit on all fronts when it debuted in 2017. Gameplay starts with Link waking up in the Shrine of Resurrection 100 years after the Hyrule Castle fell. While Link was sleeping, Zelda's been using her powers to seal Ganon in the castle, preventing him from overtaking all of Hyrule. Link has to free 4 divine beasts from Ganon's control before facing off with the big supervillain.
I don't have a Switch, so I've never got to play this one.
This game has plenty of optional side quests as well that gives you hundreds of hours of gameplay and the fun of exploring this open world, because it's the first Zelda that had a huge open world like that.
Yeah.
Not to mention that it is, in said open world, the ability to climb anything and everything, minus the rain factor, is groundbreaking. For what was probably the most anticipated Zelda title of all time, this one was truly delivered.
And I'm pretty sure Breath of the Wild 2 is on its way, or whatever
There is a
they're
sequel
gonna
coming.
call
Next, we have Cuphead.
it. I've wanted to play this, but I've heard this game.
I own this game.
Extremely hard.
It was digital only, and I bought it, and I'm kind of glad I did. I never got to fully play it because I haven't had a lot of time on it.
Have you got to play the expansion?
No. So if there's a level of game difficulty above Dark Souls, that'd be Cuphead.
Yeah.
This was a years in the making brainchild of brothers Chad and Jared Moldenhaur. It's a love letter to both the rubber hose animation style of the 20s and 30s and the bullet hell run and gun games of the 80s and 90s. The short trailer that was included at E3 in 2014 caused a minor sensation. 30 seconds was more than enough time for everyone to buy into their vision. Metal Slug with sprites by Ubi, where I work. When the game released 3 years later, it presented players with a unique incentive to spend hours grinding past each one of its grueling levels, most of which consisted of a single multi-phase boss fight. The chance to unveil the next bit of gorgeous hand-drawn character art, even if this style of gameplay isn't your cup of tea, it's still worth it to watch a complete playthrough of the game just to see all of the incredible artwork.
Oh man, that's one of the reasons that I've honestly wanted to play it, just because of how it's detailed, and it reminds me of old days, man.
Right.
Old days, you know.
Next, we have Super Mario Odyssey. Mario franchise has always been a reliable bet. Odyssey took their familiar gameplay of a decades-old series and injected it with new life. It's a gorgeous 3D landscape, visually aesthetic and player experience, from a bubbly lava-filled danger zone to a wooded forest home to T-Rex. All critical parts of this treacherous journey to rescue the princess. It's the introduction of Cappy, though, Mario's companion on this new adventure, that was a real game changer.
Yep.
So it's a sentient hat that acts as an extension of the hero, opening up the traditional Mario formula in a way that is absolutely revolutionary. You could actually send Cappy off to scoop up moons and coins, but the best part of it is if you threw it onto a creature in the game, that creature would become Mario. You would have the control of that creature. And that was something new that hadn't been done before. It was a really cool way of doing it. This is actually one of my favorite Mario games, and it's one of my favorite games on the Switch.
Nice.
Next, we have Celeste. Now, this is one I never played.
Not in my realm either.
So, the first thing that stands out about this game is the credits. They appear on a single card before the title screen. A game by Matt, Noel, Amora, Pedro, Lena, Kevin, and friends. The first two names, developers Matt Thorson and Noel Berry, created the prototype over 4 days at a game jam, which is exactly what it sounds like. They then enlisted artists Amora Bettany, Pedro Medeiros, sound designer Kevin Regami, and composer Lena Rain to build that prototype out into, simply put, one of the greatest, most challenging platformers ever. The story is about a girl who decides to climb a mountain just to prove to herself that she can. She battles her self-doubt, like really battles it on the ascent and descent and reascent. It's a major part of the game, and it's a major part of what so endeared this game to critics and players alike upon its release. But playing through the game, with its lovely pixel art graphics, earworm score, and ultra-precise controls, it becomes harder and harder to believe that it's the work of 6 people. The game takes all the classic platformer obstacles, wind, spikes, so many spikes, disappearing platforms, and combines them with brilliant, innovative mechanics too numerous to list. The challenges are endless. Beating the game is only the beginning. After that, you can try and unlock all the B-sides, extensions of each level that are even more challenging. Then there's the C-sides, and of course you'll want to collect all 175 red strawberries hidden throughout the game's 8 chapters, and the golden strawberries you get for beating each of the 24 levels without dying. And the final golden strawberry, which is too brilliant a feat of thoughtful game design to spoil in a best-of-decade blurb. Dying 10,000 times in a game has never been more rewarding.
Gee. Everybody knows this next one. I want to play the second one.
I do too.
This
would be the 4th entry in a series that has had previous installments. God of War. This felt like a legacy sequel as players returned to Kratos, a little older and a little wiser than the cantankerous Greek demigod predicted in the previous 3 games.
That just had sex with every prostitute you could possibly find.
Yep.
That's what
And
I
murdered
remember.
every god he could get a hold of.
That's what I remember from 2 and 3.
Plus, instead of going with Greek gods, because he killed them all, the new mythology at its center is Norse.
Yeah.
And it set up a new narrative that ends with a major ramification that makes the sequel one of the most anticipated games to come. Then, we have the next one.
Oh, man.
Marvel's Spider-Man.
Man.
This is one of my favorite games Insomniac Games has ever done. I love this game from the fact that you could do pretty much anything. You could go anywhere in the New York City with this the suit. The multiple encounters that you could have. Like, it was just a fantastic game.
Me and Tyler started playing this game actually when we first started.
We finished this
Streaming.
one. We never finished the sequel.
We finished that one, yeah. But we started that game when we first started actually streaming games, you know.
Yep.
And my internet connection did not like it at that time.
And then next,
Of course.
we have Red Dead Redemption
And
2.
Tyler was just going to slide right over
Well, I
that
was looking
one
to
like
see
it
what the
wasn't
next one
nothing.
was. So Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of those special, unique games with sky-high expectations that not only meets them, but surpasses them. This game is amazing. This game is more of a choose-your-own-adventure book rather than a singular story. It does have a few side missions here and there to try to control the pacing, but the way it's designed and the vastness of the map that you can just explore
You
makes
can
this
get
game...
lost in that world.
You
man.
can. And it makes this game one of the best out there.
I'm still seeing videos from people of stuff that I didn't even know about the game.
And then last on the list, I've not played it. I want to, but I haven't had a chance yet,
It looks too weird for me, to be honest.
would be Death Stranding. The reason I want to play it is because it's Hideo Kojima. Hideo Kojima is one of the greatest video game creators of the last generation. And it's his latest masterpiece. It's a haunting journey that lingers with you long after the credits have rolled. Everything, including the loneliness that permeates every inch of your journey through the barren wasteland of what was once America, is a teeny needle tattooing your soul with a melancholy reminder that humanity is meant to come together, not to be scattered and left alone. It has a heart-rending soundtrack, primarily from indie band Low Roar, magnificent performances from star Norman Reedus, Mads Mikkelsen, and Tommy Earl Jenkins. Death Stranding oozes finesse from practically every pore. The game is marked by cinematic excellence and successfully takes players outside of the box that so many developers insist on remaining in, and for that alone it could be praised. Luckily, Death Stranding is so much more. This is the complete package and an absolute must-play.
And by the way, guys, for anybody who has played the first one, the second one's on the way.
There is a sequel coming. So, guys, that has been the top 20 games of the last decade. There's definitely been a lot.
That was a good one.
Definitely interested to see what comes in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So, guys, we're
'Cause
running
we got
out.
a lot of good ones.
We're running out our time here, so we're going to go ahead and end it on that. We hope you enjoyed. This has been Thou Shalt Listen. I'm Tyler.
I'm Hunter.
God bless you guys, and y'all have a good one.
Y'all have a good one.